Good morning, everybody. 27th of April, 2025. It is Sunday. It's like 2:20 or 6:25 in the morning, and oh, I love mornings. Fantastic. I was going to show you, like in the distance, they have a it's steam coming out, but I think the heat is turned off. You know, because we've been having so many warm days. But it's -1 today, believe it or not, -1. We just had 27, which is what, 77 degrees just a few days ago, and now we have -1. Wow. And well, anyway, cold. Well, not so cold. I mean, I'll tell you what, -5 isn't even super bad, but when it gets to -10, that's quite uncomfortable. I don't like -10, but -5 I can deal with. But anyway, I'm kind of in euphoria because it is Sunday. Hardly anybody running around, and it's going to be a really sunny day, it looks like. Of course, it's going to warm up. It's really weird because I look, at least at my cell phone, and I look at the temperatures. And as I said, I get up very early in the morning. This morning I got up at like 2. Did I say 2? Yeah, I said 2. Very weird. Actually, I was awake at like 12. I'm a strange guy. I'm even strange to myself. So anyway, I woke up at like 12, and I was like wide awake, and I was like, what the heck? Tried to stay in bed for a while. Sometimes you doze a little bit, and then you wake up again, and you say, well, I'm still awake. Did I actually sleep, or didn't I? And anyway, it was like 2 something, and maybe 2:10, I don't know, and I got up. But anyway, and the temperature is maybe like 0 or -1, and then by the time the sun starts to come up, it gets colder. I've been watching that all the time. Very strange. But like I said, I love these like mornings, especially like today. It's Sunday, and I'm sitting here. You guys maybe can't see it as I do, through the lenses, but it's almost like autumn. You see some of the older leaves and the newer leaves coming out right out here, and the sun coming through. And let me see if I can block the bright sun from that. Well, you guys, except for something like this. I don't know. Anyway, but it's beautiful, beautiful. Now shut up, guy. That's a German Shepherd. Makes you wonder if some people get pissed off at their own dogs, because it's probably waking them up too, their own dog. But anyway, I'm going to get into some news, some really shocking news. I should be saying that, but my channel can be somewhat in a transition. But anyway, I was planning on this, long time ago, even before I moved to Belarus. I was going to probably do like travel for the most part, and some news too. I actually did a video in the Caribbean, back in 2021 with, I have a what do you call it, a Sony camera, really heavy one, and and the lens and all that, it's like, oh, holding that thing up. But and you can't see yourself. You got to flip the back up in one way, and you got to buy something for some sort of a mirror, which makes it even heavier. Unless I put it on some kind of a gimbal, it makes it easier than to carry it. Well, what do I say, the stabilization is not that good. It's a Sony A7 III, and even if I have a what is it called, steady shot or something like that on the lens, and I don't know, the stabilization is, compared to this Samsung cell phone, and then you have like these GoPros are really crappy. They're really crappy. They all have lots of bugs in them, they just don't work half the time. Really terrible. It's very rare if you get a good one. They overheat. All kinds of problems. I guess the better one is probably the Osmo Action. I don't know about, some people complaining now about the Osmo Action 5. Whenever something new comes out, everybody says, oh, the old one's better. And you have the Osmo Action 4. Apparently there's some really good things about that. Of course, there's good things about the Action 5, like the battery life. And I think if you get some extra batteries for the Osmo Action 4, that's a big problem gone. So maybe you would want to get an Osmo Action 4 if you want that. And of course, they're smaller and much lighter, things like that. But anyway, I'm not really into so much, believe it or not, even if you see me blogging now every day now. I'm not much of a blogger type guy, but I really love photography. Looking at this here, I could get some really beautiful pictures. I really want to, but I also want to do these videos, but I want to take my camera out and get this, you know, this translucent effect of the sun coming through the leaves in the morning. Too bad I can't get closer really to show you, you know, what it's like. I love macro photography, and here I'm talking about this kind of stuff and not talking about the news. Some of you view this channel just to get news, and some there was a lady, and I really liked that. It seems like a Belarusian lady, and she likes the beautiful walks. She has said so. And please comment again if you're watching this video too, because I don't know, I have a lot of my own likes, and it's my channel, I get to do what I want. And one of them, you know, I like to doing travel and talking about history, learning history. I don't know so much about Belarus or Russia. Remember, we're not really taught so much about those things. Remember, Russia has been the bad guys, the evil Russians, for all of this time, you know, through the Cold War era, and even now. Maybe that's even worse now. Even with Trump there, you know, I have something to say about Trump and his meeting with Zelensky, you know, in a few minutes. Very fascinating stuff, very fascinating. And it's not like this being commented on that much, but I'll get to that. And but right now I'm just in euphoria looking at all this light. Hardly any people running around. You know, there's people with their dogs out, like this lady here. You know, somehow the dogs have to go to the bathroom sometimes. Why does that have to happen? Well, there's no loud trucks. Wow, look at the sun on the buildings. It's incredible. I was in Alaska at one time, and I remember was I working night shift or whatever? I can't really remember, but anyway, one morning, the sun, you know, and there was an island, another island. I was on an island, and the island off the way had was catching the sunrise, and it was a beautiful, beautiful orange. I'd never seen that before. And by the time you rush in and get your camera, the moment is gone. It was still orange. I took a photo and all. Maybe it was a slide, and but it's still, the beautiful orange was gone. So anyway, like I said, I love the mornings far more than I love, you know, some people like sunsets. I'll tell you what, I'll take a sunrise before I'll take a sunset. You have the added advantage of a sunrise is it's very quiet. There's no people around. Everybody's still sleeping. And if you can get the gumption, I guess is the word, the gumption to get up, you know, early in the morning, especially on spring days, and just see the beauty of things. It's incredible. And I love plants too. I was a farmer, and I in the Caribbean, and like I said, I'm in euphoria right now. So this is some really nice stuff. Fabulous warm light from the mornings. Anyway, I should stop. And they get these friggin' dogs, you know, that ruin everything. But well, you know, they got supposedly a job to do, or they're hired, or they're taken on to watch the houses and things for people. Oh, by the way, I don't know if it's this street here, if this is the same street, but after I did my video, was it yesterday or the day before, I was walking and I looking at on a house, and it has the street name on the house, and I don't think it's this here, but maybe I'll go take a look. But the name of the street basically is Ukraine, you know, which means in a sense Ukraine, which means on the edge. And that probably meant that at one point in time, because I'll tell you what, the street I was walking down, in the cross-section street, the street I was walking down was called Central Street. And this goes probably back quite some time ago. Maybe it was the Central Street of Minsk at one time. It's not, it's got a different name. This is not the Ukraine Street. Ulitsa, what does it says? I'm slow. Arjan Nikitsky. Anyway, but it's you know, Ukraine saying they're this independent country, and they've always been, and all kinds of BS. Absolutely, absolutely incredible, when the very name Ukraine means on the edge, which means on the edge of the Russian Empire. And of course, when it was established, and of course the first capital Russia, let's just say that. The first capital of Russia was Kiev, of Russia. No, not of Ukraine, of Russia, was Kiev. And, and things changed. And I don't know, was it St. Petersburg? Peter the Great and all that. Very, very, very significant city. I'm maybe going to be going there at some point in time. But anyway, it's Moscow came much later. And you never know. Ukraine, they take any tiny little facts and they just milk them. They milk them to the maximum, and to try to make it sound like it's something different than it really is. I don't know where they come up with, they think that they dug the Black Sea with their bare hands, when in fact, no part of anything that was ever called Ukraine was anywhere near the Black Sea. But they said the ancient Ukrainians dug it, and they also claim that they built the pyramids of Egypt. And of course, and this is all factual stuff. It's the honest to God truth. They also say Jesus was a Ukrainian when there was no Ukraine. They didn't even have the word Ukraine. I mean, come on, it's I don't know. Need I say more? But I mean, it's just like they have so many fantasies that it's just absolutely incredible. And it's like, you start to think, well, some of this must be true, because they just have huge amounts of these things that they come up with. But anyway, forget about that. I'll get into a little bit more here now. I'll start talking news. So I've chattered my jaws already enough, and unfortunately, I've probably got to think of something else to do today. I can't really do videos if I do these, unless I do them really fast in the morning, or else talk news at some other place and time, because YouTube, I don't know if it has something to do with Belarus or not, but it takes the entire day to load up a video, really, like 6 hours. It's just incredible. Look at this. Maybe it's a Ukrainian, a jaguar. So anybody, you're watching these videos, and of course in the West they're telling you how poor it is and how there's no food in the supermarkets in Belarus. And you guys, okay, well, here's a Mercedes sports car right here. It's just incredible. It's incredible, the stuff that we are fed, fed lie after lie after lie. And of course, I'll tell you what, and I'll get into that in a minute. I got to start getting into the news, because I'm giving you all these, what do they call them, hooks. I'm giving you all these hooks and telling you about what this video will be about, in a few minutes when I start really getting onto topics. But there's one that seems like it's like Russia was lying, and I'll get to that. So if you think that I'm just a propagandist for Russia or something like that, you're wrong, because I'm kind of ticked off on what I heard already. So, and it's like it made me put out some fake news, and a part of it was even yesterday. So let's get into that. Let's keep going here. Okay. I mentioned yesterday the liberation of Kursk, and that was after Trump had this one-on-one. Now, this one-on-one with Zelensky, really, it's really something. It's really something. And if you think that Trump is this very shrewd businessman and very shrewd thinking guy, guess again. So let's get into this. Or maybe he's pulling some kind of a trick. It's not like Trump is a completely and totally honest guy, even though he's just more honest than a lot of the other politicians or the leaders of the United States, or, Starmer or Macron or God forbid Zelensky, the honest man, the very honest man, Zelensky, who's probably one of the biggest, dishonest people in politics on earth today. So let's go on to this. So it was a big room, and everybody saw a lot of these photos or some of this footage where they're sitting in the middle of a big room somewhere in the Vatican, I guess, and talking, just two chairs, Trump and Zelensky. Well, guess what, Zelensky's just saying, Trump's favorite is Russia. Well, has Trump had a one-on-one with Vladimir Putin yet? No. And it's like a lot of people are putting out, has Trump given lots and lots of weapons? And Trump was even given weapons and, javelins. He brags about giving weapons to Ukraine. He never gave any weapons to Russia, and it's like, Russia is the most sanctioned country on earth and in the history of the world, you know, mostly by the United States. So does that look like Russia is the favorite? You know, Trump didn't lift them. As a matter of fact, Trump, he extended the sanctions against Russia. He extended them. So who goes off saying that Russia is his favorite? Come on, you know? And when you come out and say something in word, it's a lot different than when you come out and you do something in deed. It's like Jesus said, know them by their fruits. So, you know, Jesus, absolutely amazing guy, you know. He came out with that statement so that nobody can change that, and nobody can change the meaning of it. That's why he said, know them by their fruits. He didn't say know them by their actions rather than their words, because you can mistranslate a lot of this stuff in a lot of languages. So, but anyway, I was looking at a lot of these cars. Look at Lexus, Volkswagen. What's this? Another, I think it was a Rolls Royce maybe or something. Ford. What is this? It's a, oh, it's a Chrysler. They write it very tiny. BMW, an old Lada. There's a Peugeot, another Lada. Anyway, let's just keep going. I'm getting myself distracted. But after this, it was incredible, this meeting. You know, it seems like Zelensky has like turned the tables. He's turned the tables on you know, what do you call it? World opinions or something like that. Because and Trump, it's amazing. It's amazing. Keep in mind that Trump had said that, in essence, he said, well, his words were like, oh, Zelensky must be the greatest salesman in the world. Every time he leaves the country, he comes back with billions of dollars. Well, in truth, what it is, you know, salesmen, to a large extent, are con men. You know, they con you. You know, maybe they lie and they do everything to try to make a sale. And but anyways, so Zelensky's like a con man. It looks like he conned Trump, even though even though Trump admits he's a con man, he allowed himself to be conned, you know, basically by his words. And I'll put out his words here in a second. He said, well, the quotes, I think I missed a few little words or something, but what I'm going to be saying is a quote. This is word for word what Trump said. He said, let's see, blah, blah, blah. There was no reason for Putin to be shooting into civilian areas. You know, we're talking about that thing a few days ago, and Zelensky coming out and saying, oh, there was no military there was nothing there and all that, you know. And Trump, it's like, it's very obvious, very, very obvious. It's just like Trump in his first presidency. He is completely either misinformed, uninformed. And it's just like somebody said just yesterday. They said, oh, what about this general that Ukraine just assassinated with that bomb? And so, oh, this is the first time I've heard about it. You know, we all heard about it, but Trump didn't hear about it. And he's the president of the United States, but he's not getting all this information. You know, he gets the information that his handlers want him to get. And obviously, it looks like his handlers are pro-Ukrainian. But, you know, you see a lot of these billions of dollars going to Ukraine, and guess what is happening? Trust me. I'll tell you what is happening. This money, a lot of this comes back, and it's an old story. It's the same thing with Israel. This money comes back to the United States, and they buy politicians, they buy the advisors of Donald Trump, you know. So all of this money, it comes back in, and they're buying us. And they say, well, all you have to do is not tell Trump about this, you guys, and I'll give you $10,000 just for that one little incident. Incredible. And I've mentioned on other times, you know, there's this book. I don't want to be walking with this guy. I hope he's going to go back. There's this book. It's called Gekauften Journalisten. It's Udo something. It's a German book. And of course, obviously, they took it out of print. The establishment does not want anybody to be reading this book. I went to Germany. I was looking all over for this book, even though I think it was written in the late 1990s, and it's out of print. And it was a real shocking book. And it's written by a reporter or a journalist, a very well-known journalist. I can't remember what, from a very, very well-known publication, and he's dying of cancer, so he put out this information. And what it was about is how the United States buys these journalists. They pay them large sums of money to either change a few facts, either not report this or to report that. That's something very minor. In other words, just to really to change the news for the most part. Heavily influence the news. And do you not think that this isn't already happening right now when you have these billions of dollars? And look at how that works. That's how that works with the Israeli lobby. The United States sends them a guaranteed $4 billion every year, and then a lot of it goes, and like I said, it's in this last year, it was at least $10 billion that they gave virtually as a free gift to Israel. And Israel never has to pay all this stuff back. It makes you really wonder, what you could do with $10 billion. And they never have to pay any of this back, Israel at least. And Ukraine, Donald Trump is kind of like saying, well, I don't have anything to them. And Joe Biden promised that he's going to give all that money free of charge, and Ukraine never has to pay it back. He was actually, Project Ukraine was a Biden thing. As you all know, during the Obama years, that was his baby. A lot of people were saying that the leader of Ukraine is Joe Biden. That's when he was vice president of the United States. So that's a big project. Rosemont Seneca, he's got his brother involved in huge real estate deals over there. His son is involved. The Burisma thing. I mean, come on, just keep going on and on. This is obvious stuff. So anyway, so that was a big deal there. Trump was not beholden to that, but it looks like they are buying Trump's advisors. They're sending huge amounts of money. Maybe this is just recently. I really don't know. But obviously, like I tell you, I worked with a lot of these people in my past, in the 1980s, and I saw a lot of these things myself. And it's like, you hear these people that are very good, like Scott Ritter and Douglas McGregor, but that's an aspect that they normally don't talk about that much. I was an enlisted, at that time I was a corporal. I hadn't made sergeant yet, but I did when I was in intelligence, in the Army Intelligence Unit in the 8th Infantry Division. But before that time I was working for the Commanding General of American Forces, directly in his office. I was working there. So, and I saw a lot of politicians, I saw a lot of heads of state, and you hear things, things from people that are in generals in charge of all of the nuclear missiles. I was good friends with him, and made friends with Jack Kemp, who ran for president of the United States, and he was running for vice president under Bob Dole. I was good friends with him and his wife. So you hear a lot of these things, and so I'm telling you how this works. And I don't really know why a lot of these, and as a matter of fact, I had to sign a document that said I will never report ever in my entire lifetime on some of the things that I've experienced. So, some shocking news, and you would think, oh gosh, why? Your channel should be really popular, but in a way it's maybe a good thing that it's not, because I would be probably in some big trouble, and I'll get into something like that a little bit later. I mentioned it yesterday, this Virginia Goulier, whatever, that was having sex apparently with Prince Andrew, and she put out a tweet. Well, I'll talk about it now. She put out a tweet. She said she is not suicidal. She would never commit suicide. And guess what? They said yesterday, I think, whenever I put that out, other people are talking about it. Now it's big news all over the place. But, apparently she committed suicide. Anyway, I was going to see what this car is. Kind of modernish looking. Let me walk over here. But where was I at before I interrupted myself? I think that's a Korean model, Kia. Okay. So, anyway. So Trump does not get all the news. And obviously, if 1 + 1 = 2, Trump is also getting misinformed very often on a lot of things. And you saw that in his first presidency. And it looks like this is going to continue now. Because I'll tell you what, it's a lot of pressure, and there's some just regular people that get regular salaries, even if they're well paid. Okay, that's some people, whatever you get, it's not enough. I'll tell you what, I'm not like that. I'm one of the few, but they don't know that. They're not going to hire me. I'm not an expert in a lot of these things anyway. But you can, hey, if I'm getting paid pretty well, I just care about my own security. But a lot of people, most people in the world, they want to get richer and richer, and having a lot is never enough. They always want more. Look at Zelensky. He's a very prime example of that. This guy's got more money than he can spend in 5 lifetimes, but he still wants more. He wants to keep on going. That's what drives him, is money, 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 money. A lot of people are like that. It's very strange. They say, even though it's not necessarily true, that Elon Musk is the richest man in the world. But in truth, he's not really driven by wealth. It's very strange. He's actually not. I'm sure he wants a lot of money, but he's got enough. And he doesn't hand it out. You would think that he would be maybe handing out a lot of it. I don't really know, but he doesn't really even spend it. At one point in time, he didn't even have a house. I even knew somebody, didn't know them. I could have known them, possibly, and I actually wanted to, but it's somebody that had a, Peter Schiff. I've even talked about Peter Schiff. He had a bank in the country that I was in, and as a matter of fact, my lawyer was... His office was in the same exact place as Peter Schiff's office down there. Not Peter Schiff himself, but his bank in St. Vincent and the Grenadines. But I think he left there anyway. He's not in the St. Vincent and the Grenadines anymore, Peter Schiff. But anyhow, I don't even know. But forget about all that. Let's talk about some of the news here. Okay, he said there's no reason for Putin to be shooting into civilian areas. That's where I left off. And of course, he didn't just shoot into civilian. That was not even a civilian area. Well, maybe it was. You could say that it was. So Trump is actually being accurate in that case. But there was military there. And Ukraine, I guess, is known for doing that. They use it as like human shields, just like Israel does. They have military. They're having a military award ceremony. Zelensky put out and said there was no military there at all. There was just something, and the Russian wanted to kill all these people. And I guess Trump is buying into that. So he's acting like Putin is very brutal. And who knows? Maybe he's completely convinced. And if there is any sort of an honest person that is any of his advisors that gets access to Donald Trump and tells him the truth, they were having an award ceremony there. And I think, and I said it honestly, and I do believe maybe there were a few children that were even killed, as well as some adults, but the vast majority of them were military. They were military people. And of course, Russia, and that's very accurate, and they're not lying, they said they do not target civilians, even though some might have perished in that incident. And of course, Ukraine will invite civilians there, so that in case Russia actually does, that they will kill them. And as a matter of fact, that area, there's a lot of Russians. A lot of that area are primarily, I guess, ethnic Russian people right near the border. So look at this, a Chevrolet. Oh, but anyway, so, but Trump seems to miss the fact that Ukraine targets Russian civilians every single day. Every single day they're bombing apartment buildings. But no, let's not see that. Let's pay no attention to that man behind the curtain. My God, Or what about Israel? Or what about Trump himself? A lot of people, even just last night, they bombed places in Yemen. They're doing it 24/7, I guess. At least that's according to the United States. They said they're bombing Yemen 24/7. And Trump is very proud of it. Shows all the planes leaving there, and they're killing a lot of civilians. And Yemen does not even mention a lot of that. And the Houthi are still going, very, very strangely. So obviously Trump does not mind if he kills, 200 civilians for every Houthi that he can get. That's okay. But if Russia, maybe for the very first time, maybe even accidentally, I don't know, killed a few civilians over all these years, and Trump gets very angry about that, but yet he is doing that. And Zelensky does this on a constant basis. And just not even mention Netanyahu, who purposefully does that. Netanyahu purposefully kills children, purposefully. That is the main goal of Netanyahu's government, is to kill children. That is his main goal. He wants to kill children. And even the Israelis, I mean, I'm not talking about all Israelis, a lot of Israelis, that they're very proud of that, and that's what they want to do. A lot of people have come out and said that. They love to kill children. Children are the main target because they don't want these people to, you know, for the next generation. And in other words, that sounds like genocide. Oh no, it's not genocide. It's the most moral army on the face of the earth. Israel. Boy, oh boy, oh boy. I don't know. Gets you pissed off just talking about this stuff. But let's keep going here. What else did he say? Okay, Trump said, let's see, shooting into civilian areas. It makes me think he doesn't want to stop the war. He's just tapping me along. Isn't that incredible? And you think about this. I mean, even if you don't like Zelensky, this guy, in Trump's own words, he is an artist. What is this? It's projection. This guy is a master. He's an actor. He's an actor. You know, everybody calls him a clown. He's a clown actor, but he is a master of projection. Can you see how he can manipulate people? Trump going into this meeting talking to Zelensky knows Zelensky, you know, manipulates people, and yet he lets himself be manipulated. It's absolutely, absolutely incredible. You know, you know. Can you imagine, you know, being sent into a room, and as a matter of fact, I've known people that are actually very convincing. I had a friend in high school, and he was talking about his uncle playing a 9-string guitar. I've never heard of a 9-string guitar, you know, and he could tell you that he's going to lie to you, and he can lie to you, and you're really tempted to believe the guy. So it is it's an art form, and I don't have that. I don't have that at all. You know, I'll tell you what, I couldn't sell a glass of water to a guy starving or thirsting in the desert. I tell you what, I'm not that good at that, you know. Like, I was very good at my coffee business, but the product itself is what actually made all the sales, you know. So I did fairly well. It allowed me to come here, you know, buy in an apartment and have enough money to, I tell you what, I could go, if I wasn't ripped off by the guy that was renovating my apartment. Matter of fact, he didn't get the money. He just destroyed my apartment. And he did a lot of things. One other thing that he did, and I didn't tell you about this, is when this special military operation was going on, you know, with the currencies going up and down, it was the euro was very high, and I could have gotten a lot of Belarusian rubles. I mean, it was like 4-to-1. And I was really tempted, and we told this guy, because, you know, they all demand, a lot of the builders over here, they demand US dollars or euros. They call it currency. No, they wanted currency. They didn't want the Belarusian ruble. And so it was like, anyway, whatever the currency was, but I could have exchanged and made a huge bundle of money. And but this guy said, oh no, I want currency. I want the euro. And then so it got even better. And then he said, well, I've decided I want Belarusian rubles now. And of course, by that time, you know, it switched over. So it's like, I could have made a huge amount of money, you know, just by exchanging the currency at that time. But the guy shafted us. And after that, you know, never really got up that high ever again. It's kind of high right now, but not anywhere near what it was before. What is it now, I think? Anyway, but we lost out big time there. Plus, he destroyed the entire apartment, so we have to rebuild the entire thing rather than just 2 walls in there that we wanted changed. He destroyed all the walls. He started tearing up the entire floor, which would have costed us, believe it or not, even in American money, $30,000 if he would have done that, the whole thing. Plus, he wanted to cut the pipes, which is illegal. You have to get permission to do that. And luckily, he didn't do that. You know, cutting the pipes to make it more convenient to put in a different place. You know, it's where the, certain pipes, you know, heating pipes. First, he's not allowed to do that ever. And it would have cost us so much money. We could have bought this car right here, this Bronco. We could have bought a car just like this with the money that we would have had to pay in fines. So this guy was really, really shafting us big time. It's not that he was putting most of that. Well, he was actually trying to steal a lot of stuff from us. He was telling us what supplies needed to be for the electricity and all that. So, and I was thinking, this is just too bad. I told my wife, this guy, there's something wrong. I was telling her all along. And so we went to some other people, and the electrician looked at that, and he said he can do a huge house with all of the supplies that this guy was listing that are needed, and there's a whole bunch of stuff that was not needed. He said it's for a house, it's not for an apartment, that this guy was telling us about all these things, these supplies needed for this apartment. So there's some big crooks over here too, and we didn't have it on a contract because the person we bought the apartment from, this guy, it was her friend, and he'd already renovated 2 rooms of that apartment, and then he tore out the walls of those on the rooms that he already redid, which is like, what? What the heck is going on here? So this guy, he just wanted to really shaft us, and he was going to way overcharge us for everything. What a criminal, And technically speaking, we still could have gotten and tried to get this guy, and he would have had to pay us a big fine. Who knows? He would probably have had to pay a big fine to the government as well for being a real crook. Incredible. And then he was complaining, when we dropped him, and he said, "You guys owe me some money, It's like, what? First you really shaft us big time. You screwed us over I tell you what, nobody in my entire life has ever screwed me over like that guy has. I've never seen such a big criminal. And that's in Belarus. And here you think I'm just trying to give propaganda for Belarus, but this is the biggest criminal I've ever run into. So anyway, no more to be said about that guy. Going off on tangents here. It's Sunday. So, gonna be another 5 or 6 hours to upload this video. It's gonna probably be too long. So, talking about Trump, anyway, he said that Putin is tapping him along. And I've been putting out in these videos, and other people have put out too, that Zelensky is tapping Trump along. So it makes you wonder, is Trump really also incredibly stupid? I mean, gosh, this guy. It just doesn't make any sense. Trump just needs to think, maybe 1 or 2 days even before that, he can find out that Zelensky's tapping him along. As Trump himself said, you're losing this war. You can't make demands. I got a quote from somebody else in here too, a military analyst. And I'll talk about that in a second. My fingers are starting to get frozen. Maybe it's even colder than -1 because it's a breeze blowing right now too. Okay. He says, Putin, makes me think he doesn't want to stop the war. He's just tapping me along and has to be dealt with differently. This is what Trump said, and a lot of people are not talking about this. These are Trump's words. He just said this yesterday. So in other words, he's basically saying Putin is tricking me. He's tapping me along. He has to be dealt with differently than I've been dealing with him so far. And what, with all the sanctions, you mean? So what are you going to do, take the sanctions off? And he said, I have to deal with them differently through banking and secondary sanctions. You guys know what secondary sanctions are, don't you? Secondary sanctions are that, Trump would probably want to do this. He's doing this to Venezuela. Anybody that deals with Venezuela, that buys Venezuelan oil, they themselves will get sanctioned. So Trump wants to do that, or he's suggesting doing that. Maybe he will get around to it. Sanctioning anybody that buys oil from Russia and putting, tariffs? 145% tariffs on them? So if you do dealings with Russia, we're going to punish you and punish you badly. We're going to destroy your economy. I guess that's how the United States works nowadays with Donald Trump. It's like, by golly, we are going to destroy everybody that does not make us rich or do what I tell them to do. I am dictator. I'm master of the universe. I don't know. I was having a lot better feelings about Trump, and now I maybe have to change my mind a little bit. I don't know. Let's see what happens. Okay. So, yes, a master of projection. So I already gone into a lot of this stuff, luckily, so I'm still on my first friggin' page of this. That funeral, it turns out that funeral, it's not really was a funeral really for the Pope. It looks like it was a social event. You had a social event of politicians. Meloni was there, obviously, she's from Italy, and you had Pelosi. Pelosi was even there. Pelosi, boy, And you had Ursula von der Leyen, you had Zelensky, of course, you had Starmer, you had Macron. They were all there. All of them there. You know, a big social event is a friggin' funeral. I mean, talk about dishonoring the person who's the Pope. The Pope, of all people, the Pope. Dishonoring the Pope and turning it into a political dealings like with Zelensky and Trump and anyway. Okay, keep going. Well, a lot of the stuff I mentioned, you know, Trump, he ignores the transgressions of Ukraine. And if Russia ever, things have not changed, doesn't matter who the politician is, if Russia ever steps out of line, get their pee-pee whacked. Bailiff, whack his pee-pee. That's from Cheech and Chong, by the way. But anyway, they're going to whack Russia for doing anything that looks like it's even wrong. But Ukraine can get away with anything, just like Israel. And like I said yesterday, Zelensky is demanding, he's demanding that he gets a deal at least as good as what Israel gets. I am the master. I am defending all of the world, going against the evil Russians. Apparently he really believes that. So I should get a deal at least as good as what Israel gets. And as you all know, Israel is even more than the spoiled stepchild. Israel gets anything Israel wants. The only thing that they haven't gotten is that they've been wanting the United States to bomb Iran. And the United States probably is starting to realize, and a lot of people have been saying that, you bomb Iran, you're going to be in some big trouble. Iran is not Iraq. Iran is not all these little dinky countries, you know, these little weak countries that the United States always bombs back into the Stone Age, you know. So anyway, even though Iran is not as powerful as the United States by any means, but Iran has been waiting, and the United States has been threatening Iran since the 1970s, you know, threatening and threatening and threatening. And you think Iran has been just sitting back and doing nothing, you know? And it's like they had oil, and they've been putting a lot into their, what's going to be their defense. You know, they got air defenses. Anyway, they're not a bunch of wimps. And it's not like, anyway, I don't want to go into that. That's a completely different thing anyway. And Trump has even admitted himself that Russia, and this is an honest to God truth, Russia could destroy, they could destroy, literally destroy Kiev in one day without even nuclear weapons. So, need I say more? Okay. Okay, Trump. I talked a lot about this stuff. This is pretty good. Okay. Okay, what I was going to say, also something, you know, makes me look bad. Oh, my nose is actually running too. But that, you know, I was making fun of these invisible North Korean soldiers, but apparently they came out and they said that there were North Korean soldiers there and they were thanking them. And I thought that yesterday I said in the video that I put out in the afternoon that that Maria Zakharova was actually just trolling, you know, and thanking the North Korean soldiers. But now they say there were North Korean soldiers. Even Patrick Lancaster, who is there, he is there on the ground. He said that he never heard of any North Korean soldiers. So it's very strange that Gerasimov, and of course then Maria Zakharova, who is not there, she's just echoing what Gerasimov, who's been there obviously many times, thanking the North Korean soldiers. And it's strange that nobody else has ever mentioned anything about North Korean soldiers. I don't know. I find that very strange. I really don't know. I don't understand that. And I don't know. It's like makes me even be like Trump. Like I just accused Trump of being misinformed. So nobody has ever talked about these until now. But of course, it's obvious it's not 17,000. You can't hide 17,000. I think the U.S. said there's 12,000, which I think is a huge exaggeration. If indeed the North Korean, if they had some soldiers there, I would say definitely, it's even on the high end, it might be 2,000. You know, might be. The United States has forces in Syria. And people talk about those, and I think they have 2,000, you know, which is a battalion. So I'm just talking anyway. Yes, 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 yes. Okay, you guys have heard now about been a big, huge port explosion in Iran. And as of when I started making this video, it was actually expanding. The fire is getting bigger and bigger. And there's been a lot of fake news about saying what it was, I think coming out on CBS and all that sort of thing. But I don't even know what was in there. And there was some sort of a fire and then another big explosion. So it's something very flammable. So I don't really know. It's pretty highly, highly, highly to be suspected that Israel's involved in it. And I saw some sort of a thing that said it was Mossad, but you know, I don't want to put out again something like North Korean soldiers. So I don't know if that's true. Okay. Okay, what else? Actually, I might have to, you know, I had quite a bit of coffee and it does something to my bladder, especially when it's very cold. So if I can, let me walk over here and hopefully there's nobody around. There's a guy over there. I don't think he's gonna care. So I have to, what's the word? Relieve myself here. Let me put this on pause. Sorry about this, guys. Nobody would normally ever say this on a video. Hey, I'm back. Okay. Didn't leave a mark on the wall. Okay. Okay. So far, I saw one report and it said on that explosion that 18 are dead, and there's like huge amount of people injured. It was like 750 people injured, and like I said, the fire is still going. It's very, very bad. It's a big explosion. So, and you know, who knows? Maybe they kept some things there. Okay, and then I was talking about this girl, you know, and it's par for the course, like I tell you. And in some of my experiences, you know, when you work for some like big shots, like generals or politicians, even some people in show business and all that, it's sort of like these people have there's something much, much, much better than all the rest of us. So we have to, you know, you don't want to work with these people because it's got its own humiliation, you know. Oh, that these people are so important, so very important. And I was shocked. One time I also worked in just sometimes for this company that you know, and they built things like when, you know, sporting events, you know, like stages, putting up the stage and setting up sound equipment and all for you know, rock bands and performers and all that sort of thing. And then they have some people that work permanently, like roadies and stuff. And they act like they're so really important, and they try to like boss you around, like you can't look at these famous people or whatever, and they treat them like royalty, and it's really sickening. It's actually more sickening thinking about these people and how, you know, how they're slaves. I mean, it's like I was an extra in Pirates of the Caribbean as well, you know, and it's like Johnny, you know, it's like, what the heck, you know? They act like these people are something different, like they're gods or something like that. So, like this, what's her name? Virginia Giuffre, and she was one of the ones that were one of these, what do they call them? Young girls at that time with Prince Andrew and Jeffrey Epstein and all that sort of a deal. And you know, if you have some kind of information on somebody, or if you do something that might upset these people or whatever like that, you know, then you're a liability. And so what happened was, you know, this girl got in some accident not long ago, and everybody is putting out, not everybody, a lot of people, they showed pictures of her. She didn't look very good, and then they said, oh, she's faking it and all that. And like I was just telling you about, you know, a lot of huge sums of money. Powerful people got a lot of money normally, and to tweak some sort of information, they said, oh, all you have to do is say this or not say that, and here, there's $10,000 for you. And it's like, well, yeah, hey, I'll do that. And so they can control the information very easily with money. and trust me, that works that way. And it's not just money. It's just like a threat, like I said in the military, and I've seen it myself, threats. If you have something threatening, something that you can use maybe against very powerful people, you are threatened. You are threatened that bad things can happen to you. We knows where you do your laundry. Hey, your little girl. I have already did this stuff in some of my other videos, but I tell you what, they're going to go after you. They're going to really hurt you. They're going to hurt somebody that you love or whatever. They're going to find ways that hurts you, and it's happened to me before, believe it or not. That's one reason why I know this, because, somebody really did a number on my cats, because they didn't like me, and it's all because I just said something to somebody, and they didn't like it, and they thought they were like of God status. They weren't even a big politician. But anyway, it happens all the time, and they do that. They even kill people. Trust me. Okay. Well, you guys probably know that. You watch my channel, and I'm putting out a lot of things nobody really puts out. Maybe a lot of people, I don't know why people don't put this stuff out, but this is stuff that really does happen. And, Jeffrey Epstein himself. Oh, the cameras were turned off. Alex Jones, he comes out and says a lot of this stuff. That's why he's very popular. And of course, they really had to take him down. They suing him for $1 billion. He never had anything close to that. And I don't know, he's still going. I have a lot of respect for Alex Jones. He's been interviewed by Tucker Carlson. Tucker Carlson even likes this guy. Sometimes he exaggerates a little bit of things, but I have a lot of respect for Alex Jones. So, and maybe some of you guys don't know about him. And of course, he's been taken down big time off of the internet for the large part. But let's just keep, anyway. So much said. Okay. So anyway, he put out this thing that she put out a tweet, and she said she is not suicidal. She'll never commit suicide, and all that. And then this is even an older tweet from a few years ago, even though it's true. And Alex Jones has talked about other people like that too. He's interviewed people, and they said they will never commit suicide and all that. And oh, lo and behold, a couple of weeks later, and even with suicide notes, and their bodies are found. Supposedly they committed suicide. Happens to a lot of people. They suicide you. There's a lot of people been suicided. Lots of people. Lots and lots of people. And it's like suicide. And in real truth, think about it. Is that the answer? Is that the answer? You have some sort of a problem? It's practically never the answer. The only time I would think that people might really want to commit suicide is if they're on some sort of machine, and their relatives who are not super rich would have to be paying huge sums of money, to keep them alive, and it's bankrupting them, taking their entire life savings away. And I tell you what, I would really be thinking about that myself if my significant others or whatever were sitting there looking at taking all their savings just to keep me alive, and then maybe and for what, I don't know. That's just my opinion. But okay. And I already talked about them U.S. bombing Yemen on videos. They're showing videos, and there's like children and ladies and all that sort of stuff, and bombs going off, then people getting killed by U.S. bombs, and then Donald Trump has the audacity to say that to Vladimir Putin when there was a military parade, award ceremony going on there. It's like, I don't know. What's that expression? Something for thee, but not for me. I don't know. So Donald Trump is not such a. Donald Trump. Talking about Donald Trump, it's just that he's probably better than a lot of others, but he's not any kind of an angel or a great guy either. There's sometimes he's done some really good things, and you have to admit that. So it's kind of like, well, one side you don't want to talk about some of the dastardly things that Donald Trump is responsible for, and then he does some tremendous things, and he doesn't even want to be recognized for the tremendous things. So it's like you don't even want to speak about him. So okay, I'm getting close to the end here. How much time it's almost an hour already. Okay, when I was just talking about, some of the things I've been saying about Zelensky stringing Trump along and all that, there is a retired U.S. Lieutenant Colonel. His name is Earl Rasmussen. I've heard his name many, many times. He's a military analyst, and he is talking about the peace plan, things I've been saying for weeks. I guess he's watching my videos. Trump didn't watch my video yesterday. You know, Trump, you know, that's why you're fooled by Zelensky. Hope you guys, hey, this is a night. I can probably take a picture of this. I'll put it on the front of my video. Beautiful blue in the background with the white flowers. Okay, but let's keep going. I get distracted so much here. So the Ukraine peace plan. He said peace plan. I say piss plan, but he was saying that Zelensky, or maybe what did he say? Zelensky or the Ukrainian government is in another world, in a different world. I've alluded to that many times as well. He says they're basically demanding an unconditional surrender of Russia. Have you heard somebody say that before? I've been saying that for weeks. I'm glad that these guys are watching my videos and they're putting it almost in the identical words that I am. But anyway, he said they're basically demanding an unconditional surrender of Russia. Hey. And he said that it's the first time, or whatever, and I didn't say this, but somebody else did, and before this guy did as well, that you have somebody who's losing, putting the conditions on this, you know, trying to call the shots on ending it. Let's see. The loser does not get to dictate the terms, is what this guy says. And, you know, and even Trump is even now starting to go along with Zelensky's on that. You know, very strange. This guy's an absolute master in con artistry. But the Russians, I'll tell you what, you got to hand it to the Russians not falling for this. Well, obviously they're on the other side of this, you know. But Zelensky, you know, thinking he's got all the cards. It's like, my cards are invisible. I tell you what, and I seriously still believe, if there were, and apparently there were Korean soldiers, but there's very few of them. I guess there wasn't 17,000. You can't hide 17,000 soldiers, and Patrick Lancaster never heard anything, and nobody's heard anything about him. I mean, talk about sworn to secrecy. You know, how many, 17,000, you'd obviously, there would be thousands of people over the course of a few months knowing that these soldiers exist, and somebody would be talking about it. It's not like everybody's sworn to secrecy, or they're and if they're locked behind some big barricade or something, then how are they going to fight the Ukrainians? So obviously people would have known about it. So there's not a lot of them. It's even still possible that there wasn't any of them. I don't even know. I don't understand that they put out some kind of a saying that there was. Just forget about it. Okay. So, and Russia even put out that they will discuss peace with Ukraine unconditionally, with unconditional. But of course that's not true, because Ukraine has their conditions, Russia has their conditions, and there's certain lines they're not going to go against. And the problem is they're 100 miles apart. They're complete opposites. So how are you going to come to some sort of an agreement? Apparently the only way that this is going to end, it's going to end militarily. And the military, the consequences are going to dictate what do you call it? I mean, I can't even think anymore. It's going to be anyway, it has to be done diplomatically. I guess that's the word. You have to have a diplomatic solution, but the military effects are going to dictate the diplomatic solution to what is going to be going on. And of course, it's all on Russia's side anyway. And if Russia actually does not use that, then they're being stupid. So, and of course, I've always said, and you know, apparently Russia had said they would stop right where they're at right now, but that would be a terrible injustice to those people in Odessa that are Russians. It's a Russian city. It's a very well-known Russian city, founded by Catherine the Great. And if Russia just walks away from that, gives it to Ukraine, and Ukraine, trust me, is going to be using that. If this comes about, Ukraine is going to be killing Russians. They're going to be rounding them up and killing them and doing who knows what to them just because of the fact that they're Russian. That's what's going to happen in the future if Russia does not take Odessa. maybe even Kharkiv, or maybe these people have to say, okay, we will be the slaves of the Ukrainian, the master race of the Ukrainians. I don't know. So anyway, that's pretty much all I have to say. I want to take a picture of this. I really love this. Beautiful right now. Nice scent too. But anyway, thanks for joining me, and please, leave a comment. Nobody left any comments, I think, on the last videos I've had, and if you want, you can even make some suggestions on what you think I should be doing. If I have some free time over these summer months to travel around a little bit, and I plan on doing that anyway, but if you like travel videos or me to be talking about the things I talk about, if it pleases you, let me know that. If you think I get too distracted and talk about things you're not interested in, then maybe I should just talk about news and maybe even do some travel at the same time. I will be doing some traveling and talking news, of course, but maybe you don't want to hear about other things. So, but you'll appreciate it if you all put your comments in. Also, like the lady that likes the nice, she said, beautiful walks. Tell me if you like that sort of thing as well. I don't know. I love it. It's my channel. So, but if you don't, let me know, and maybe I have to separate. Maybe I have to have a different channel and just. I actually want to do some photography, like with my good camera too. But it's not as easy to operate as these. These are more automatic, and Anyway, forget about that. So, thanks for joining me, and I'll see you on the next one, everybody. Bye-bye.